All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming and spending your lunch hour with us. We're excited to have you here for our State of the City. We have brought back the State of the City just to kind of give an overall view of everything that's happening in our community because we have a lot of great things to talk about. And so thank you again for coming. Thank you to our commissioners for helping put this together and for presenting today. We also want to thank Baker Arts, who did the catering, and it is incredible food. So please consider them in the future if you're looking for catering. Want to thank our IT department here for helping out with all of our logistics, as well as Candy Garcia for amazing decorations. Looks great. Thank you, guys. We'll kick off with an introduction from each of our commissioners. We have 5 commissioners, and they are elected by the City of Liberal as a whole. So they serve 2, 3-year terms, sometimes, 2 and 4. So we appreciate them for all the work they do. We keep them very busy. And so we'll go ahead and have our mayor introduce himself and talk about how long you've been on the commission and what interested you.
My name is Jeff Parsons. I am beginning the first of my, second 4-year term. And this year, I've been selected to serve as the mayor. And I guess my kind of interest in the thing I'm going to be talking about today is economic development.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeanette Vasquez, and I have the honor of serving as your vice mayor. I'd like to start off by thanking each and every one of you for coming to this event. It's been in the works, and so I'm just very excited that we are finally here, and we're hoping to see more participation throughout the years. I, along with Jeff and Jose, am also on the start of my second term, so this is our 5th year. And I decided to run for numerous reasons, but the number one reason is I have seen a lot of growth in a lot of nearby cities and across the state. And I said Liberal can do the same thing too. We just gotta put a plan into action. And so as the other commissioners talk, there's a lot of projects that we've been able to accomplish, and it's basically just to keep Liberal moving forward and to put Liberal on the map.
Hello, I'm Ron Warren. I guess I'm the maybe long-standing member off and on or whatever. My first year was in 2001. I see John Smith out here. I served on the commission with John. It's been nice. I would try to tell you how many terms it was, but sometimes I forget. I'm thinking it's 7, but we'll look it up sometime. But I appreciate this opportunity for us to present what we've got going on in the city, and look forward, like I said earlier, to continuing this. I'll be talking about projects and some of the things that we've done and are doing and have coming up, and we're just happy to have you guys here.
Hello, everyone. My name's Jose Lara. As they mentioned, we've done 5 years, so this is the start of my 5th year. I went a little bit different than they did. They served a 4-year term and then serving another 4-year term. I got unlucky by 15 votes and had to serve a 2-year term because I got 3rd place. And then came back during a heavily contested primary season, gained 100 more votes and got a 4-year term. So I'm on the 3rd year of my 2nd term. Housing and economic development, though, has been my drive. One of the biggest purposes was to recombine the economic development that had separated between the county and the city. Ironically, Commissioner McCaffrey was serving on the county when that was happening, so we have good relationship here to move the city forward.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending. My name is Nathan McCaffrey, and I am the newest member of the Liberal City Commission. I was selected a few months ago, by the other 4 members of the commission to fill the term of Matt Landry when he vacated the seat and moved away for employment reasons. He had a 2-year position, so I will serve the remainder of this year and then 2027, and we'll have to decide around spring next year about what my plans are for the commission. As the newest member of the commission, I'm still kind of getting my feet under me and learning the lay of the land. The 8 years that I had at the county, serving on the commission and chair, though, has really provided me a platform, I think, to get up to speed a lot quicker than many of the other candidates who applied. I'm just excited to be here. My motivation in applying for Matt's position, and I mentioned this a little bit in the speech that I gave when they were interviewing candidates, was I think the city of Liberal has been moving in a really great and positive direction for the last several years. As I set out in the community as a citizen, I've liked what I've seen in their meetings, from their staff leadership, from commission leadership, and just felt that I could drop in there in Matt's position and not really interrupt anything and keep things moving forward in a positive direction. Thank you.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Like they said, thank you so much for coming today. This is our first State of the City in quite some time. Thank you to the commission for pushing this forward and encouraging us to do this. I, for one, am very particular about transparency and communicating with the public. So my name is Scarlett Disker. I'm the city manager. I have been the city manager, the interim city manager, since October of 2024. And the permanent city manager since January of 2025. This is my hometown, born and raised. I love it dearly, and I want to see it succeed. Sometimes I have no idea how I got here, but these 5 individuals put me here, and maybe it's divine intervention, and we just keep pushing forward and doing what we can for our town because we all care for it greatly. And so thank you for entrusting with me the financial aspects and all of the project making decisions here at the city. It is a huge job. Most people do not understand that, but we try to do our best for everybody each and every day. I have been tasked this afternoon with breaking down the budget, and this is an area that I love dearly, and I could talk about it for hours on end, but I will try to make it to where it's fun to understand and transparent for everybody. So, funny story about me. When I was little, my mom put me in preschool at about 3 years old. She knew that I wanted to go to school. She knew that I liked operations and organization, and staying at home just really wasn't an option for me. First day, she takes me to Grace Lutheran Preschool, and I walk right in, was ready to go, say a couple of things to the teacher, sit in the corner, and I start taking puzzles off the shelf, and I start working through these puzzles. My mom comes back 8 hours later and says, well, how did she do? Because we know she's a lot younger than everybody else. And the teacher said, well, she hasn't said anything to anybody for 8 or 9 hours, and she has worked puzzles in the corner nonstop. And I guess I haven't changed much from the 3-year-old version of myself, because doing the budget is an absolute puzzle. I call it Tetris, and I'm currently training Brian Mantle on it there in the back, because he has been my successor as the CFO, and he can probably attest to that, because we are right in the thick of it at the present time. So here we go. We will try to run it down and make sure everybody understands. This is an excerpt from our budget brief that we put out in 2026. Keely and I were very specific that we wanted to put out documentation and information to the public that helped them better understand and break down how mill levies work, how revenues work, and this is the result of that. And we published this shortly after our budget was finalized last year. And our budget is thousands of pages long, and nobody wants to go through that. So this is a visual aid that helps people understand it better, and I absolutely love it. So we will start with the dreaded expenses. Expenses are a necessary evil in government to keep infrastructure and community development, economic development rolling. And so the first piece, the biggest piece of our expenses, 43%, is infrastructure and environment. This includes your water, your sewer, solid waste, cemetery, city buildings, housing programs, street lighting, pretty much everything that is necessary from an infrastructure perspective. So this accounts for about $26.6 million in our budget. Some of this lives in an enterprise fund, which is revenue driven from utilities, and a lot of it lives in the general fund. Next up, with the next amount that's the highest, is 24%. This is about $14.8 million for public safety. Public safety absorbs the biggest piece of the general fund. So this is your police, your fire, these types of things. And so general fund is typically about a $23 million budget, and about $6 million of that is the police department. Next highest is the fire department. Communications lives in its own fund and is shared revenue-wise with the county. And we submit those and coordinate those budgets about this time every year to make sure that 911 is healthy and staffed and has the proper equipment to keep things rolling because they are so vital to the infrastructure for PD and fire. Next up, we have 11%. This is the transportation category. This includes streets, traffic maintenance, signaling, sidewalks, the city bus department, airport. These types of things are also vital to how we move through our city. One thing that we notice on Facebook whenever we post that we have a specific project that we're excited about is people continuously post about, can you fix the streets? Can you do something about this? And we are constantly working on street maintenance. We're putting in new streets for housing developments, which Jose will expand upon here in a minute. But we do take our street work very seriously, and we want to make sure we're addressing those issues. If you haven't utilized the resident reporting tool that's online, you can go out there and report anything that is of concern to you. And a lot of times people will report potholes or different things that are bothering them. And we would much rather deal with it from that angle than have somebody very upset posting on Facebook and then other people joining in, because that can get contagious quickly, right? Next up, 8% of the entire budget, $5 million, is rec programs and spaces. So this includes our recreation department, parks, beautification, the golf course, the library, and our Kalen Park. The library is not necessarily a city department, but via ordinance, it takes about 4.5 mils. We can assess up to that to give to the library when they give us their annual budget. So they typically range anywhere from about 4.2 to 4.4 mils, and that is via ordinance that we help them with that. We also curate the front park area and take care of it for them, and it looks beautiful. Next area, 8%, is administrative and government. This is an area where I think a lot of people on a federal level feels that there is a lot of waste surrounding, because people don't necessarily like the word administrative costs or duties. But in this category, we have administration. The commissioners are in this department, finance, IT, HR, court, our debt recovery expenses, and other general operations. And then the last category, 6%, is economic development. This accounts for $3.7 million. This is our tourism, public affairs, the Mid-America Air Museum, transient guest tax, CIDs, TIFs, RHID incentives. So all of those development agreements that we have with people throughout town to improve and grow. So there are several fund categories. She has them all kind of clumped into these types of descriptions, but they all live in different funds and operate separately. There are many that have restrictions by law. Transient guest tax, which funds our tourism department, is one of those restrictions. And if anybody has paid any attention to the Facebook posts on the Dorothy Slipper slide, you might know a little bit more about how TGT works. But those funds are dictated that they have to go straight back into the tourism department. So whenever you see us making investments in tourism, those funds are transient guest tax funds. They cannot be expended to go to streets or sidewalks or anything of that nature. Specifically, back into the tourism department. And each quarter, $7,500 of that bed tax goes to the Air Museum. So we are pretty restrictive from that standpoint. Okay, we will move on to revenues. This is the part that I love, because I came from the private sector. I like to see that revenue come in and see how it's also leaving. But we operate on a balanced budget. We want to make sure that we are very responsible with your taxpayer dollars. We understand that nobody really enjoys writing that check. And I think it was one of our lobbyists that told Keely and I one time that nobody does more with less than Liberal Kansas, that we really, really try to maximize that dollar. And right now, where we're trying to maximize dollars the most is right over here on 11th Street with the water park. So we up here want as much as we can get for about $6.5 million. That's very, very important to us. And I wouldn't say that we're demanding, but we have high expectations and we want to get as most as we can for you guys. So a big portion of our revenues, 27.9%, is from sales. So a lot of this is our utilities. This is income from water, sewer, trash, leases, and rentals that we have, say, at the airport or throughout town, maybe at the Greer House. The cemetery, that's not a glitzy thing that you want to say that we make revenue off the cemetery, but we just have to make enough to, pay the overhead expenses. The golf course is having a record-setting year in revenues. Weather has really helped us out there. We are so grateful for that, but we've made some infrastructure improvements and some aesthetic improvements out there that we're pretty proud of. So if you haven't been out there, please visit. Other areas is our gift shop at tourism. admission to the Mid-America Air Museum, which is very popular and sees people from all over the world that come in and visit that. And then also the water park, although it's not open this summer, it does produce a little bit of revenue. It most definitely does not cover its entire expenses though, just so that everybody's fully aware. 24.8% of the budgeted revenues come from taxes. So before I worked for the city of Liberal, and I hate to say this because I was a banker, I just assumed that everything was covered by mill levy. You just think everything is property taxes, that's it. They're using all of those property tax dollars to fund everything. Taxes only account for 24.8% of the budgeted revenues. This includes property tax, motor vehicle tax, alcohol taxes, fuel taxes, utility sales tax, county sales tax, interlocal tax, and we just talked about it, transient guest tax. So I like to make sure, I'm not ashamed to tell people, before I was in government, I didn't know how some things work. I think it's important to educate and tell people so that we can then tell our friends and make sure everybody knows a little bit better about how things work. Fund balance savings, 24.5%. This is our cash rollover. So it is very important that we stick to our budget and that we roll the set amount of cash that we tell the commission and the public that we are rolling. So 24.5% of that is cash rollover. Interest and royalties account for 1.2%. So at points in the year, we see more cash in and out of our bank accounts. January and June would be those months because that's when we receive the largest property tax distribution. We are tasked with those dollars and making sure we have invested them properly and legally and that we get the most return on that. Because I was a banker, that's an area that I do not struggle in. So we try as hard as we can to get the most return on that interest allocation, and then we allocate it according to the fund. City licenses and permits are 0.3%. That isn't something that people love to do either, but it's a necessary evil to come in and permit and then pay for those permits. 0.4% is services. So this is your rec center programs, event fees, airport landing fees, and city bus rider revenues. Those are all very minuscule. People ask me all the time, why is there a $2 fee to go in and do open gym at the rec? Or why is this like that? Those are just little things that help balance the budget so that we can also keep the pressure off of property taxes. 2.1% is reimbursement incentives. These are generated from community improvement districts, so those are CIDs. That's that extra 1% that you see in certain areas. Those are economic development incentives. So the normal tax is 9.25. The plus one is the CID district that helps go back into supporting those developers and maybe reimbursing them. We also take an administrative fee off the top of that, 2 to 5% for the city. Very small amount, but just a little bit. RHIDs as well. Those are our housing incentives, and then tax increment financing is also economic development. 4.5% is our grants and donations fund. I call that Fund 209. This is where people give us funds and then we deposit them in there. They are not budgeted and can be used whenever that specific department sees fit or whenever they have a project or an item they would like to purchase. And then 8.1% is the 1% sales tax. This is my absolute favorite thing to talk about. I could talk about it all day, every day, because the improvements you see in Liberal are always going to come from the 1 cent and the 1%. We call it both things. And I always say that if we ever voted it down or anything ever changed there, Liberal would change drastically from that point on. I don't want to say that we're overly reliant on it, but we do depend on it quite a bit, and we have to watch that pretty closely. But all the growth and development comes from that. The water park is a very big example of the success of the 1%. So we'll move on to that one. All right, so the 1% sales tax, this has been around since I was a young child here in Liberal, and it's made a difference in all of our lives ever since. We receive about $5 million per year into the 1%. It's approved annually by you, the citizens of Liberal. Every 10 years is when we go for renewal, and we are up for renewal in 2030. That time is approaching quickly, and hopefully that water park will be open fully in 2028, and that will be a great example to the public of how useful those dollars are and how that benefits our community and supports our young people all the way to our adults. It is paid for in a shared bucket by locals and visitors, so it's not just all on property taxes for people who live here. Anybody who comes to town and spends money here is helping fund these projects, and that's why we love and support the 1% sales tax. It spreads out that money, and we will always support that and be for it. Oversight is from a committee called Focus on the Future. This is something that meets once a month. They give us a prospectus every couple of years with different ideas that they have taken from the community and brought in and presented to us, the city of Liberal. We have rebuilt this relationship over the last couple of years. I think there were points where maybe the city wasn't as involved in that committee as they should have been, but we believe in listening to people, showing up monthly in pretty good numbers. Anywhere from 4 to 5 people show up, and we give our overview of what's going on in the city and what we're proud of and how much things cost, and that's very important for us. And we never skip a meeting, and we give them a full rundown of that. So 1% sales tax, huge difference in our community, is divided into these 5 categories. 60% every month goes to streets, drainage, and capital improvements. This is our biggest fund. Currently, it has about $8 million in it, and that's how the water park splash park will be funded, with cash sitting in that fund right there, earning a lot of good interest at the present time. 15% goes to economic development and economic development and housing and community development. Economic development obviously funds several things that we have going on, any type of lobbyists or things that we see that needs to be done at the state level. Keely obviously lives in that fund because she does so much work for us via communications. And then housing and community development, these are our housing projects and anything else that's fun around town, say the community band, the splash pads, the smaller ones were funded from community development. The Christmas tree that's going up at the fountain in the Christmas season that we are so excited about. Let's see, the dog park is funded from community development. 5% goes to crime prevention and city beautification. One thing that we are so proud of here at the city, and you will hear commissioners say this time and time again, are our parks. They are beautiful. You can travel all over the country and never see parks as nice as the city of Liberals. And so if you've lived here for a long time, maybe you don't see it as much as people from the outside coming in, but we have a lot to be proud of there, and we really need to capitalize on that because not everybody has such beauty in their parks and have people that care so much for it. I don't know what I will do when Bruce retires. That's a whole speech for another day. So, all right, next slide. This is my last one, I believe, and this is something that we are very proud of and like to point out. We live here too, so people that work for the city sometimes are labeled as maybe outsiders or that we don't understand, and we live here too, and we pay taxes here too, and we care about it being affordable more than anybody. We don't want Liberal to become an unaffordable place to live. So this gives you comparisons on different communities that we're always compared to. So this is the city tax levies divided by population, which is the taxes per person. Liberal in 2026 levied $8.1 million. Divided by 19,184 people is $423.87 per person, compared to Garden City, 12.2 million divided by 27,996 is about $438.45 per person. Dodge City levies about the same amount as we do. They have more population, therefore their taxes per person is lower. They also have a biogas fuel plant that generates a ton of revenue that helps to offset that and lower it. We don't have enough affluent water to be able to do that, although that would be wonderful. So that's kind of the big difference there. This next portion is what I am actually most proud of, and this is the city debt levels. Because I'm a banker, I understand these numbers and I understand what they mean for the future of Liberal. Liberal currently has a debt assessment of $42,180,061. Compared to our counterparts in Garden and Dodge, Garden has $145,777,117 in debt, and Dodge City has $174,131,221. The biggest chunk of our debt is from water and wastewater projects. So the wastewater plant that we finished a couple of years ago is the biggest chunk. We have almost paid off all of our leases for equipment and are doing very well there. We will be extremely cautious and careful as we make debt decisions in the future to make sure that we are not burdening our future generations with loads of debt and payments, because you have to assess a debt fund to pay that back, and guess where that comes from? Property taxes. So we want to make sure we keep all of that in check. All right, let me know.
So our commissioners are going to talk about some of the different areas that we are focused on. I wanted to introduce the Launch Liberal plan, which many people in this room helped with in terms of giving us feedback, giving us ideas for our future. For a very long time, we operated out without any sort of long-range plan. Whether it was infrastructure, community amenities that we wanted to provide, and just looking at the future of growth in our community. And so we went through this process. Video is going to talk a little bit about that process and give an overview of the 5 different areas that we're going to be presenting on.
The City of Liberal is excited to share that our Launch Liberal 2035 comprehensive plan is complete.
The plan is a guiding document created using feedback and ideas from hundreds of residents across our community. It outlines specific goals and strategies to support Liberal's growth and development over the next 10 years.
Through careful analysis, public engagement, and consultation with city planning experts, we've adopted a plan that focuses on the following values.
A place to live. We will support safe and attainable housing options for residents across all stages of life.
A connected place. We will become a connected community that provides safe, efficient, and functional travel options for all transportation users.
A distinctive place. Our city will feature unique and identifiable spaces and places that build our community pride and identity.
A place to play. We will provide beautiful, connected park spaces with enjoyable recreation options for all residents.
A place for opportunity. We will create a stronger economy through diverse business growth, expanded employment opportunities for residents, and downtown revitalization.
We want to thank every community member that participated in our planning efforts. Your voice makes a difference, and we are excited to fulfill your vision for our city.
As we work towards reaching our goals, we will keep residents updated on our progress through our project website at cityofliberal.org/launchliberal.
And so with that preview, we'll move into our first topic area, which is a place to live.
All right, thank you so much. So back to housing. That was one of the biggest concerns that we were having. I spent my first roughly, during the campaign season, understanding what's needed for a liberal and why we haven't been growing. The next year, I spent it getting the information, and we had a group setting where a housing study was done. In that housing study, it shows that by 2040, we were needing at least 1,300 more units within the city of Liberal. That same study says we need 6,000 more units just in Southwest Kansas to match the growth that Dodge, Garden, and Liberal will be doing within that same time frame. Well, Dodge and Garden were putting in anywhere from 50 to 200 units a year. They're barely getting to that point now, but it is the process they're doing. And Liberal at that time was putting in roughly 3 to 6. That's all we were growing in new housing. So I spent the next year researching what can we do to help housing. And during my campaign time, I also focused on cities building streets, even though I was told adamantly that cities do not pay for or build streets. And I challenged that. After a year and a half, Eli Swati from Economic Development went to David Tolan. He's both our Lieutenant Governor and Secretary of Commerce. And in his office, we sat down and said, what do we need to bring in business to Liberal? And his words were extremely cryptic. He just said, rooftops guide the winds of commerce. That was it. He didn't tell us what to do. He just said that one statement. But it was clear. If you're not building houses and if you're not growing, businesses will not focus on your community because they don't see the growth necessary to bring in their businesses here. Where are you going to put their employees? Where, if it's a sales retail business, who's going to come and buy from them? They all focus on that. They get that information. We all know that AI now can tell you where your cell phone has been, where you travel, where you spend your money. So these companies have access to all that information. They know where you're traveling, where you're spending your money. All that to say, we needed houses. And so after a year and a half, I spoke to Dodge City. We were sitting in a meeting with the previous city manager and at the time, Mayor Parsons. And I said, call Dodge City and see what they're doing with their RHID program. And so they have a hybrid system of what we're using, where they pay for some of the street, but the developers pay for the rest. Here in Liberal, we went a whole different route. We're 100% the developer of the street. We pay for all of it, and then we recoup those costs in the RHID process. And so how that works is, and there's been misinformation on this. This is not a tax abatement. The minute that house is given an occupancy permit, they begin paying taxes on it, whether it's the builder who holds it or whoever buys it. That money then goes to the county, and instead of being dispersed to the 4 taxing entities, it is returned to the developer who has the RHID, which in this case is the city. Because we're doing it, we are saving roughly 3 to 5 years worth of interest that would have been paid, well, maybe to a bank, so some don't like us for that, but this is a $1.6 million project for each housing development. So many banks aren't loaning that money anyway, local banks. So that means we will get those. Most times it's 15 to 25 years before a taxing entity will see a penny from that development. With our current projects, we could have some of these paying taxes onto the tax roll within 7 to 10 years. Some of them being the Chance Edition, the Ortuño Edition, and the Doll Housing Edition. Those all are roughly 48 houses, 45 units, and then 60 units on the Doll Housing Edition. So altogether, we put in roughly 150 units in the pipeline. We're now getting up to about 20 units, but that's just the start. We need to make sure we continue focusing on that. And so that's where we're at with a place to live. Again, I wouldn't call a lot of these affordable myself, but with any hope, it moves the market. Some people will move up to them. It'll put their house on the market. On that note, we also helped, and all we had to do was pass an ordinance for the state credits for the Ranch Motel to be turned into Pancake Flats. So that created 18 units of rentable space. So we're looking at every mechanism possible to find affordable housing and create new housing for people, because Liberal has to grow. And then the last part is in 25, we had 224 housing program apps, which came up to about 498,000. In assistance and incentives, we have a new fence program, a sidewalk program, and a wastewater fee waiver. Also, for the Ortuño edition, one of the things that we've been waiting on is the floodplain maps. So they will begin construction on their project when we get out of the floodplain. That was another project we worked on. We should have it by 2027. So that's also helped the city quite a bit, because a lot of the empty land we had left was in a floodplain. So we've got a lot of progress there. But I say all this to say I truly believe that the state of the city is strong.
Thank you, Jose. And if you have questions about some of our housing incentives and grants that we have available, please stop by afterwards. We've got some information on the new sidewalk program, the wastewater waiver fee. The Paint the Town program is extremely popular, as well as our home repair program for eligible residents. Many of those are funded by the 1-cent sales tax and help. You know, it's great to build new housing, but we also want to take care of what we do have, and those programs really help homeowners do a lot. So we'll turn it over to Ron for a place to connect.
Thank you, Kaylee, for traveling that all the way over here. So a place to connect actually covers a lot of different items of connectivity, whether you're traveling through the community on foot, you're traveling in a vehicle, you're leaving the community on an airplane, how you get from one side of town to the other. There's all kinds of things, and we have the bus program now. So there's a lot of different types of connectivity in our community. I'm going to go through a couple of them. If you're traveling by foot, you know, we have multiple concrete projects going on downtown, Kansas Boulevard, Kansas and Pancake, sidewalks in other locations, golf cart paths, et cetera, all over town, just to get people around by foot, maybe by bicycle too, I guess. Also, added sidewalk repair replacement incentives for property owners and reimburse expenses, so sidewalks can be repaired throughout the community. There's an SSRA plan that is a free study, which will be able to use the plan to justify applications for state and federal funding to support local transportation projects. So it's important that we are able to get grants and funding on different projects. At the airport, there's been marketing efforts lately to try to increase numbers and development consultant taxiway project going on right now. There's a new terminal project. They bid out the parking lot part of the new terminal, and the new terminal will be coming in the future. That will be exciting for because I know the numbers have increased a lot in the last few years, and we're seeing a lot more employment in Liberal, so it's really a good thing. One of the major things that's been talked about for years is another overpass, and that discussion is happening this year, and trying to decide where that will be, but that site will be decided with the public's input. We like to include the public in all that. So touching on the city bus transit facility, the new facility is going up right now, so we can house our buses and keep them probably in better shape, being housed inside. And it's largely funded by KDOT, so that's very helpful. There's a few like signal upgrades, new technology for Pershing, Pancake, Pine in Kansas, 11th in Kansas to improve safety and traffic flow, and 75% of that is funded from the KDOT grant. So connectivity through our community is really important, whether you're traveling by vehicle, traveling on foot, bicycle. We have, I'm going to say, in the last 15 years, there are so many more places that you can walk sidewalks, and we have a lot of walkers in town, don't we? So it's nice that we have places to do that, and we're continuing to improve on that yearly, and like say, and then also handle the hard issues like how do you get from one side of town to the other across the railroad tracks. That's in the works. How do you get from here to another community? The airport has, like I say, it's just improved every year, so everything is improving in connectivity.
So we also want Liberal to be a distinctive place. A part of the comp plan is we want to feature unique and identifiable places and spaces that will further our community pride. So that will give us a sense of identity and of our culture. And so these are really projects that improve the quality of life. They beautify our community, and we have found numerous ways to maximize our dollars and be able to implement new ideas, basically just to bring more joy to people where families can spend the weekends here in Liberal. And I think we've done a really good job of thinking outside of the box and implementing new initiatives. People always say, what is there to do in Liberal? There's actually always a lot of things to do in Liberal. Sometimes I think I get too booked up because there's just so many community events going on all the time, which is why the city of Liberal implemented an effort of enhancing community events. And one thing that we've done is we've implemented a community event calendar on visitliberal.com where people can submit all of the events. And if you actually tune in, you'll see that there is always something going on in Liberal. We also have an event planning guide. So if there are community members who want to plan an event but don't really know where to start, we also have that guidance to help them get their event started. Another big project that we've implemented is the common consumption area. That's been very popular and successful here within our community. And so basically it was established to support special events in downtown and also basically bring more people to kind of have that social life. So with the common consumption area, we've noticed it was something bigger on the east side of the state. So it's basically when people can walk within a certain region and carry alcoholic beverages if they're in a marked cup. But we have seen more events with bigger turnout. For example, United Way just recently had a big event by Tortuga, and I have never seen so many people out on the streets just happy. And I can say it's a very safe event. The concern was, well, people are drinking. I feel like if anything, it was safer because there was just so much control, and the business owners did such a good job as well of implementing their own security measures. But at the end of the day, I think it really just brought a sense of identity and more recreational activities for our young adults. I think that's something you always hear when younger professionals move away. One of their concerns has always been, well, there's nothing to do in Liberal. And so I feel like the common consumption area is just bringing more events for our communities and younger adults to have things to do on the weekends in a safe manner. And we also have implemented the Liberal Community Band's performances at the park. Those have also been very successful. It's very exciting, brings a lot of families to the park. And on top of bragging about our parks, that they're beautiful and they have so much going on, we also have events within them. So it's something that we're very proud of. We have had 3 shows. I think we have one more. Yeah, we have one more. So in total, it's going to be 4 shows. And we've had over 60 members play in the band. So it's had very, very good turnout. Another project is the Willow Tree Golf Course. We have renovated the clubhouse, upgraded the kitchen, cart paths, improved outdoor gathering spaces. I do feel like it's also brought in a lot of different people who typically don't go golfing, and so it's just more recreational things for our young adults and families to do here in our community. Another one that I have to brag about is the Liberal mural. I think that's brought a sense of identity to a lot of people. There's a lot of people in our community and people driving by who stop by to take a picture with the mural and the Red Ruby slipper. But I think it's little projects that give us a sense of pride of who we are in Liberal. We've also done renovations and have added park banner flags to highlight our identity. Something I'm very excited about also is all of the holiday decor that we've implemented. So I know last year we purchased some big ornaments. This year we're very excited. We're going to purchase a large Christmas tree. And the reason we do these projects is, like I stated earlier, a lot of the times we go to bigger cities and we're like, oh, I wish Liberal had that. Well, why can't we? Why can't we do that? And so I think that's kind of our train of thought of why we've been able to implement more of these projects. But there's a bigger goal. So it's not just to have a big Christmas tree. It's for us to have a bigger Christmas celebration. We're looking at potentially bringing a portable ice skating rink that's still in the works, but basically just being able to bring more joy to our families with events like that. But it starts by building steps. It started with ornaments this year with the Christmas tree. Next year, hopefully we can just add more and keep it growing. And the sign updates at the park, I don't know if you guys have seen those as well, but I just think it just makes our parks look better. And it's all about marketing as well. It's about perception. So even though some people are like, it's just a sign, well, it's more than just a sign. It's us highlighting our identity, who we are, and just marketing our parks. And I think that we have been able to do that with fiscal responsibility as well. Something that the city is also really good at is looking into grants to help offset some of these costs. And at the end of the day, we're just looking at ways to be able to bring more quality of life projects by maximizing our dollars and not being able to spend too much money, but also putting ourselves on the map and networking with our capital, our congressmen, other organizations to where we can truly be able to secure more funding to be able to do more things out here in the city of Liberal.
Up next, we have a place to play.
All right, as you can see from the slide, the City Commission and staff has had a focus on making Liberal a place to play. You can see listed there are several of the projects. Park lighting has been installed at McRae, Mahuron, Bluebonnet, and Country Club parks to make those more friendly, especially at night, for people who want to play there or walk in the evening. At Light Park, there has been a fitness court installed, cardio weight systems and stretching equipment. for people who enjoy that type of thing, but maybe don't want to do it inside or don't want to pay for a gym membership. Bluebonnet pickleball courts have been installed. There were 4 of those completed in 2025. Pickleball is not a sport that I play, but I know a lot of people play it, so it's nice to see the city kind of chasing that trend, because that's what people look for when they look at a community, to see if they're paying attention to what people want, and that seems to be one of the things that individuals enjoy right now. Archelon Park has had a lot of work done to make it more enjoyable out there, repaving the road, and there will be upcoming restroom renovations out at that area for those who really like to go and experience the wilderness of Seward County, Kansas. Those projects have all been completed. They were completed before I became a commissioner. One of the first things that I got to participate in was approving the dog park, which will soon, construction will soon begin on that. In a couple weeks, it'll be located north of McCray Park. There will also be an off-street parking lot. A funny, quick little story on that. Many times when I was a county commissioner, I had friends or other members of the community who would approach me about trying to put in a dog park. But the problem with that is I was a county commissioner, not somebody who could control what goes on in the city, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to put a dog park somewhere out in the county where it probably wouldn't get used. So there was some sense of kismet in one of the first things that I got to approve as a new county commissioner was a dog park, finally in the city of Liberal, Kansas. So just a funny little remark on that. And then our biggest project that we have just started to work on is, of course, the replacement of Adventure Bay with a new aquatics facility there on the corner. And we have just selected a company that's going to help guide us through that process. We voted on that as a commission, and we will start kind of meeting with them and developing ideas tomorrow. In fact, there is, in fact, not an actual design yet. That's what we're working towards. And so back in December, the community was given the opportunity to have a lot of input into what features, what they wanted to see in a water park. So we're going to incorporate those suggestions, but there will be additional opportunities for input as we kind of start to finalize what that might look like, come up with a few designs, and put those out for community comment so that we can hopefully have a water park that will last for generations and everyone can enjoy. All of these projects have been funded by the 1-cent sales tax that Scarlett talked to you about earlier. So please keep that in mind. It's several years before that has to be renewed, but many or perhaps all of these things would not be in place without that 1% sales tax. Thank you.
Right, in our last category, Mayor Parsons will talk about a place for opportunity.
A place for opportunity sort of is a direct link to economic development. And in the State of the City address, I can say that Liberal does have a strong economic base with a diverse business community, and the state of economic development is strong. And there are some things that the city does directly. Programming, we provide incentives for economic development, like tax increment financing, community improvement districts. We also have direct programming that goes to business owners here in Liberal, like the facade program. It's a 50-50 match up to $10,000 so that businesses can make their facilities more appealing and draw people in. There are a lot of things that go into economic development, like tourism. The city is involved with through the tourism board funding things like the PRCA rodeo that draw people into town. The things like it's been mentioned a couple of times, the ruby red slipper, the newly repainted ruby red slipper. Fun things like that. The Air Museum, which we fund also. We're constantly updating those exhibits and things to draw people to town. other things like Baker Arts, and all designed to bring people into town. I didn't see anybody from the Economic Development Office come today, so we can brag on them a little bit, not embarrass them. But the three staffers from Economic Development Office, which we share responsibility with the county. They do some really amazing things that very few people know about. Tom and Raquel, they work directly with local businesses. They have programming that they use. They'll gather information, excuse me, from businesses, all their income businesses, their walk-in, their expenses, and things like that. Tom puts them through, a computer analysis, and we're just beginning those programming things and helping local businesses maximize their profits to streamline their operations. Showing them which hours are best to staff, that matches with the revenues as it comes in. It's really an amazing thing that stuff does, and it gets very little publicity. One of the things that people may have begun to notice is that our downtown area has received over the last several years some significant investment in new restaurants, and what is interesting to me is that a lot of that new development is come on Second Street, which was sort of a thing that nobody really expected. But recently, the city has hired a consultant group that will help us put together a downtown redevelopment plan that we can then put into action. I think they're actually starting, if they haven't started already, they're starting soon, doing direct interviews with business people and influencers downtown to help us put together a plan. That's something that I'm really excited about. Also, we passed a common consumption area, which will help downtown, help those restaurants and things improve their business. But the meat and potatoes of economic development is really business recruiting. And I can say without question that Eli, he heads that area up. That's most exclusively what he does. But he is doing a fantastic job with business recruitment. I know that some, they've had some announcements regarding the businesses that are coming from Taiwan. The first of those is Apogee Energy, a company that will assemble battery packs to be sold for home use, for industrial use, also for data center use. It's been a little bit slow in coming together because that company has gone out and they have been soliciting business for these batteries. And from what I understand, they've got business that exceeds $1 billion. They are currently working on their plans for the remodeling of their facility. They hope to be in production before the year is out, so that will begin to happen fairly soon. One of the most exciting things about that project is they're bringing friends with them. Two companies, one called JC Technologies. They are a military drone manufacturer, and a company called Big Sun Energy. They are a solar panel manufacturing company. They have signed agreements with Apogee Energy to co-locate some of their United States manufacturing and distribution operations here in Liberal. And those companies will begin, from what I understand, early 27 with their production. So, it's a great influx of high-tech, very good jobs that Eli and his team, in coordination with the state, has been able to put together and bring to Liberal. In addition to that, we've been working with a group called Riddell. Riddell will help us. We're going to start a new industrial park on Highway 83, North Highway 83, sort of across the highway from where the tank manufacturing plant will be. We're working with planning and zoning on that, with KDOT on that, to do design work, and we hope to begin late 26, early 27 on that project. And then there's things that come down from the state called requests for proposals on a fairly regular basis. Companies wanting to relocate to Kansas, they'll ask us, would you like to bid on those? Would you like to propose working with those companies? And of course, we always say yes. And so Eli is constantly working on these RFPs from companies coming in from out of state. A lot of times those don't happen very fast. They happen over a period of months, maybe even years. But just a kind of a taste of what's going on with economic development. It's one of those things that you wish you could talk about openly about everything that's going on, but you can't usually do that. And then I always had a thing that I always said about economic development is nothing good happens fast. These things take time, and Eli and his team, in conjunction with what the city does, we're constantly working.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. You all did a great job. Appreciate that. So that concludes all of our updates. Thanks again for coming and spending some time with us. I want to remind everyone there are so many different ways to stay connected with us. We are always open, always available to talk with residents and answer questions. Our city commission meetings happen twice a month. We also have and do many community presentations. So if you're with a civic organization or you know another group that could benefit from specific topics, more information on certain things, Scarlett and I and staff are always glad to go and do that. Please reach out. Our city website, of course, stays very busy with updates all the time. If you're ever hear a rumor or want to go take a look at things, you can find the truth there. Our resident report tool we also mentioned, I've got some information back there on that. In our first year with the resident report tool, it's a very easy online form we created. I think we had more than 80 different submissions. Beforehand, those people would have had to try to call City Hall and then get transferred to the right department and then be able to talk to the right person just to address a problem. Now you can do that in a quick minute online through a form. And it's been very helpful. The residents who have submitted things, they often stumble upon things before we do. And so it's been able to help us more quickly address issues and keep our community safe and looking good. Social media, of course, that is where we share all the truth as well. And so be sure to follow us on that. If you do see some big announcement, please help us by sharing that. It always goes a long way to help with that. And then finally, at pop-up events, we've started going to a lot of different events around town. If you see me there, please come say hi. It can get kind of lonely. But we do have our Ask Us Anything prompt and encourage people, if you see us at a pop-up event, if you would like us to come to your event, please reach out because we're glad to do that and just talk with people, answer questions. So again, with that, we do have an information table back there. Scarlett had talked about the budget brief, has a lot of good information in it. So we encourage you, if you're interested in that, to pick up a copy back there. We also have a page with commissioner contact information back there. So please be sure to grab that as well. You can always reach out to them with ideas and concerns as well. And so again, thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate it. We are here to stick around and talk afterwards. Looks like there's still plenty of food and cookies, so please be sure to grab some along the way. And thanks again for your interest and for being a part of our community.